for PINS Year 2 schools. We are thrilled to have you with us for PINS for this second year running. And I'm Julie Hudless, I'm Head of SEND for NHS Cheshire and Merseyside. I'm joined by my colleagues. I'll let you introduce yourselves, ladies. So Leslie Firth.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Leslie Firth. I'm Julie's deputy.
And Helen.
Hi, I'm Helen Noble and I'm the admin for the team. So nice to meet you all.
Thanks, Helen. So if you've just joined, what we're asking you to do is to put your local authority and the name of your school in the chat so that we can track your attendance, just so we can catch up with anybody who can't attend one of these 3 webinars that we're offering this week, to make sure that they're up to date with all the information so we can be really consistent with our communications going ahead. I will say I can just hear somebody, if you wouldn't mind muting yourself, that would be really helpful. I would say also, I recognise it's your lunch hours. If you want to have your cameras off and have something to eat and grab something to drink, please do so. We are thinking that the slides, that it will be a lot of sharing information with you, but the slides should probably take about 25 minutes at the most. And then there should be time for questions. I will try and pause at certain points so that you can ask questions as we go along. But really, we should be well wrapped up within the hour so that you can have the end of your lunch hour, really. So I've got a set of slides that I'll share with you and they'll be sent to you. I'll drop them into the chat at the end of this webinar and we will send them on to you as well so that, again, you can share them with whichever colleagues couldn't make the call today who you might be working with as a PINS school. So bear with me while I just share my slides. And if I could have a couple of hands up, that will let me know. I'm just waiting for it to go onto slideshow. Okay, brilliant. Thank you. We've just got a couple of people. Welcome if you're, hang on a minute. Where's my slides gone?
Still see them, Julie.
Brilliant, that's fine. So I just can't see you now with the way it's set up, but I'm relying on you, Helen, to let me know if there's any hands up as we go along. I won't be able to see the chat. I'm just going to stop sharing. It's just done something a bit weird. It does this when I'm at Lakeside, so I'm just going to share again from where I was. Welcome if you've just joined us. Please do grab something to eat if it's your lunch hour and this is the only chance that you will get today. Okay, tell me if you can see the slides. Yeah? Helen, can you see them?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I was clicking on the wrong thing then. Yeah, can see them.
Brilliant. So there we go. PINS, if you don't know already by now, stands for Partnerships for the Inclusion of Neurodiversity in Schools. And this is year 2 of the programme. You are one of 30 schools that are joining the programme this year. What we're hoping to cover, and again, is that slide moved on, Helen?
Yes.
Brilliant.
We've got a hand up, Julie. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Adele? Oh, she's taking it down.
It's okay, sorry,
Adele.
I clicked by accident. I was saying I could see before, but it was a hand instead of a thumb.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adele. So what we're hoping to cover in this session is we've done our welcome and introductions, going to give you a very brief overview of the PINS project, the project aims and what we're looking for in our Cheshire and Merseyside schools. We're going to have a look at the PINS activity and focus specifically on self-assessment, which is the task that we need you to complete by the end of the summer term. So we're on the minutes for it, we realise. We'll talk a little bit about the importance of the school calendar for tracking all activity, and then the surveys that will come out in September as well. So for anybody joining us from a Parent Carer Forum, that's when you really get involved in terms of the surveys. And we'll talk about next steps, share our contact details, and we'll answer any questions at the end. But I will try to pause as we go through so that you can ask any questions pertinent to the bit we've just discussed. I will rely on Helen to let me know if anybody has got their hands up. Okay, so to begin, if you attended one of the head teacher briefings in Wirral or Halton, you'll have seen a little bit of this already. But PINS is a multi-agency project. It's quite unusual in that it's funded by the Department for Education, supported by the Department for Health and Social Care, but it's overseen by NHS England. And it's a way of DFE funding coming through to the ICB to enable some specialist health support in schools. So this goes alongside your NHS commissioned services, which I appreciate at the minute can be quite hard to access. It enables the provision of specialist health support in PIN schools. The way that it works is around the self-assessment. We identify what your needs are, and then we separately commission people, health professionals, to come in and help you with achieving what you need to within the programme. It also supports the strengthening of parent-carer school partnerships. That's not to say that we don't already realise that you'll have good working relationships with parents and carers, but we really focus on those children and young people with SEND and their parents, and give them that link to their local parent-carer forum, and get them to kind of like work with them to really support that parent voice in school as well. It very much takes a whole school focus, working with school staff. And as I said, it complements your commissioned NHS services, which will continue alongside this. If you have professionals, therapists who come into schools, that won't change. This is in addition to that. And so in terms of the aims, the DFE long-term aims are that PINS, we're now in the second wave, will ultimately improve workforce capacity for supporting children and young people with neurodiversity in schools, so much so that there'll be improved attendance, a reduction in exclusions, improved pupil wellbeing, and increased parental confidence in the schools where PINS has been carried out. And it's all part of a wider DFE ambition for inclusive mainstream education that you'll be becoming really familiar with. Our additional aims within Cheshire and Merseyside is that the strengthening of those parent-carer school partnerships are rooted in co-production. We have an ICB PCF group, we have a co-production charter. All our commissioners are tasked with working in co-production with the populations of the services that they commission. We're really about increasing collaboration between the ICBs and schools. PINS gives us that unique opportunity to do that and to support you via those whole school support packages. We want to actually be working on how we're going to sustain this in the long term, because it is a time-limited project that will end at the end of March. But we're encouraging you to establish a health check as part of what you do in school, in terms of maybe annually considering where you are in terms of support and inclusion. And we're really wanting to build and share expertise of inclusive education amongst a community of practice of the PINS Year 2 schools, and supported by some of our PINS Year 1 schools too, as we work through the programme. So I'm going to pause at that point. Helen, have we got any hands up? Anybody with any initial questions?
Not at this moment in time, Julie, no.
Thanks, Helen. So in terms of who the schools are that are available, we've got 30 schools. So last year there were 40 schools that were involved in PINS Year 1. We've got 30 schools that are involved in the second year of the programme, and this is how they've been allocated. So Halton, Wirral, Knowsley and Cheshire East all have 6 schools. We're taking quite a targeted approach, and Cheshire West and Warrington have 3 schools each. So it was offered to all 9 areas across Cheshire and Merseyside. We particularly targeted Halton and Wirral because they weren't involved in PINS Year 1. And then the remaining allocation was very much influenced by parent-carer forum capacity and schools' willingness to accommodate PINS despite other competing initiatives, which we're very mindful of. You have been sent a memorandum of understanding between school and the PCF. If you would have a look at that and sign that and return a copy to us, that really sets out the relationship between you as a school and you as a PCF and how we work going forwards. In terms of the overview of the activity for PINS, this summer term, there's 2 asks. It's that you complete the self-assessment, which we're going to go into now in conjunction with the menu of support. And the deadline for that is the 25th of July at 5 o'clock. So if you can get that to us by then, that will enable us to do all the planning across the summer holidays. We'll also send you a school calendar that we really want you to track all your planning and your support delivery in there, because again, it really feeds into the reporting activity that we need to do as part of this programme. In the autumn term, at the very beginning, we'll be sending out surveys, and I'll say a bit more about surveys and later on in the presentation. And the support offer starts to be delivered from that autumn term. Spring term, the support offer continues to be delivered, and then there are surveys at the end of the 2 terms so that we can really measure whether there's been any impact, positive, hopefully not negative, in terms of the programme and what's been delivered to you as a school. And so self-assessment. So again, can I just check in that nobody's got any questions up to now? In terms of the memorandums of agreement. They will have been, I'll be highlighting all the time for you to look for an email that came from Helen Noble that was headed up as school self-assessment, and within that you've got, I think I'm right, your memorandums of understanding and your link to the self-assessment. So that's what's kind of.
Julie,
Oh,
can I just interrupt? The memorandum of understanding between the PCFs and the school, that will be sent in September. And the schools, I sent an email last week with the self-assessment and the programme of support, which I know you're coming to that a bit later on in your slides. So in other words, there's no memorandum of understanding at the moment being sent to the schools. Sorry.
Okay, I will amend that for the next webinar then. So I was thinking that had gone out already, but that's a piece of work to be done in September, not now.
No, that's for that's between the PCFs and the schools. And we said we would send that in September to capture the new cohort. We've got a hand up as well. Kath?
Yeah, it was just about that memorandum of understanding. It was sent between the PCFs and the schools, was sent to us last week. We've already sent that out to the schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, that was my understanding too, Kath. So Helen, I think you did send out all the memorandums I think you're ahead of yourself on your to-do list. You sent out those last week to the PCFs for them to sign with the schools.
And then the copy would be sent back to the PCFs. We send the copy back to you.
That's it. Yeah, spot on. So Helen, you can take that one off your list.
I need to go back then and check that, because that shouldn't have been done yet. But right, okay, yeah,
okay. Kath from PCP. So Nosy, is that all right with you? I think you have already got them, and you can be signing them and sending them back to us.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to lower the hand, but nothing's happening.
Okay, I'll just ignore it then, Kath. And then Kath from PCPW, your hand went up and then went back down. Might it have been the same question?
It was the same thing. We had ours earlier this week, I think.
Yes. Yeah, brilliant. So that's the main thing, because again, it's for both school and for the PCF to look at how you're going to work together and what's expected of each of you, so that you've got that agreement in place as well. Brilliant. I shall carry on. Let me find my slides again. Okay, so in terms of the self-assessment, this is the piece of work for schools to do this term before the end of term. The key thing is that you arrange a date for completion as soon as you can. I would say you probably need an afternoon, no more than that. You might be done sooner. But basically, you've been sent an email last week that is entitled PIN School Self-Assessment, and the link is within it. If you've missed it, please contact us, and we will, like I say, our contact details are at the end of these slides, and we will send it to you again, because it is quite hidden within the email. But that link will take you to an MS form. And basically what it says, there's some information at the start of it that will say the majority of sections need to be completed by a school leader, because you might have a PINS lead within school and the SENCO. That could be one and the same person. Ideally, we'd want 2 people to do it so that you can bounce the ideas off each other. But so long as it's completed with involvement of either the PINS lead or the SENCO, that's absolutely fine. Within section 2, there is one point that requires a governing body contribution. This could be your SEND governor, it could be your head of governors, and it's a free text box of up to 500 words. And there are some points to consider to support completion, so that you're not just left with a blank free text box to fill in. What we've said is that if you wish to, and your PCFs have already made contact with your school, you could involve your PCF rep if they're available, but it's not part of their requirements to be part of this. So that's entirely up to you. It's absolutely fine if it's just school that complete the self-assessment and the PCFs really get involved from September, but we'll leave that to you as individual schools. Before you begin, what we do recommend is that you familiarise yourself with a menu of support document that's also gone out as part of that same email. And that contains examples of what good looks like. It's quite a lengthy document. It's a 15-page document, and it's split into descriptors for schools and then indicative context. And it might be that you need it or not. We know that you know your schools well, you know your cohorts well. That might be all that you need to actually be able to fill in the self-assessment. And it is just an MS form. We're not asking you to evidence anything. This is as much for your benefit as for us. And it's really the conversations around how you rate yourself for each of the statements. That's where the richness of the understanding comes from. But the menu of support document is there. I'd advise you to look at it. And if you come across any specific statements that you're struggling to come to a consensus about how you respond to, that you refer to the menu of support, because that will give you that extra bit of guidance to be able to come to a decision. So the self-assessment, as I said, there's an introductory information at the start. Section 1 is all about some biographical details about the school and leaders within the school. And then the main bulk of the self-assessment is the 6 domains. So we've mentioned to you before, if you've been on previous head teacher briefings, that there are 6 domains: leadership, culture and values, mental health, readiness to learn, teaching and learning, the environment, which is very much around the sensory environment, and communication. And there are free text boxes for pupil voice feedback to capture your baseline about that, and your governing body contribution. What I'd say is, don't be put off by the number of statements at the beginning of this form, because when I looked at it, I was like, whoa, okay, this is going to take a long time. But it's front loaded to having lots of statements within the leadership, culture and values section. And you can see I've put them in brackets so that you're forewarned that the leadership, culture and values section is split into 2, and there are 12 statements to come to a decision about for the first part, for part A, and 6 for the second. But then when you move on to like mental health and the environment, they've only got 5 statements each. So just prepare yourselves, and those who are doing this, that they're not of equal length. And if you're losing the will to live by the end of leadership, culture and values, you speed up after that point. What we say very much is that the self-assessment is a baseline. It's not a test. Try not to overthink it or spend too long completing it, because genuinely your gut reaction to where you are is usually the right one. In terms of the co-production section, your PCF rep will discuss the results of this with you after the first coffee morning in September. The self-assessment ends with section 3, which is all about priorities for school support for each domain. So as you've scored each domain, at the end of it, there's a free text box for you to just make a note of what you're seeing in terms of the themes that are coming out of that scoring, and whether you're starting to feel that this is an area where you'd benefit from some support in school, so that by the time you come to your section 3, you've really got a growing understanding about what your priorities for school support are that really inform us to commission that offer. Any questions at that point? Go on.
Steph's got a hand up.
Go on, Steph.
Hiya. How do we find out who our PCF rep is?
So where are you, Steph?
Holton.
You're in Holton. So your PCF rep will be Claire Collins, or it'll be Rachel Linden. They've been tasked with, from their email that had the memorandum of understanding, of contacting you. So if they've not contacted you within the next couple of weeks, if you let me know, I can set up that contact with you. But it will be either Claire Collins or Rachel Linden who will be in touch with you for your school.
Okay, so I might have misunderstood it wrong as well. So I had a quick look at the survey, and I saw that some parts of parents. So I did a survey for parents to get their response to the whole school. Is that wrong?
Oh, wow. No, absolutely not. That can feed in. What you might find is that there is a bit of a duplication, because there is a separate survey that goes out first week in September for all your parents and carers. But if you've got the kinds of parents and carers who are happy to fill it in again, that's absolutely fine. I think I love that, because you're already wanting to understand what their needs are as well, and you'll reflect that very much in your scoring. So that's absolutely fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Adele?
And then Adele, I can see your hand up.
Yeah. The self-assessment form, I clicked on it before and I just put in our name of our school. If you go off it and go back on it again, it doesn't save what you're doing. So
I know.
Is there a paper version that we can actually have a look at first? Because if you've got to do it all in one go, I need to be ready to do it.
I think that's a really good point. I worked through it myself yesterday, and it was like you do the whole thing and you submit once. Whereas I know you'll have been used to kind of other where at the end of each section you can save a bit and then go back.
Yeah, but you've said about doing like a governors, you need to put about a governor thing.
That's
Well, I need
true.
to know what to ask them. So, and a pupil voice, I need to know what to ask them. So if I won't necessarily have them there on that on the.
Yeah, that's a really good point. What you can do is you could send that in separately. You can complete everything and then say governors will be sending in that free text box as a separate kind of Word document, so you can do that separately. Yeah.
Is there any chance copy and pasting what the questions are would be helpful?
Absolutely. I'll come to you in a minute, Mark, but just straight back to you, Helen. Would you be able to print off, because you've created the Microsoft form, would you be able to do a printed version, save it as a Word document and share it?
I could do that, but there is a way of resubmitting. When you can partly fill it in, submit it, and then it asks you if you want to save it for a future date, so that you can go back to it and then resubmit it again. So we've got a deadline of the 25th of July. So I'm thinking that, sorry, I'm looking at my bigger screen here, but I'm thinking that once all the surveys are in at the beginning of August, say, I'll be starting to look at them. So I think once you've resubmitted, as long as you do it before that deadline, I will then be able to assume, hopefully, that all the surveys are the latest versions and there's no more, unless you let me know that you're still waiting for something or whatever. That'd be absolutely fine. But there is a way of doing it. I mean, you do have to submit it, but you can then save it and then resubmit with further information. Does that make sense? I can send you a screenshot of the message because I had a query from one of the other teachers earlier today. If that's helpful.
There's an option, if there's an option to say to resubmit, save it and resubmit later.
Yes, yeah, there is.
It's not going to have
just that it kind of,
there with it.
Yeah, it just complicates things if it's all coming in with different versions and different, you know, I mean, it's not a problem, don't get me wrong, you know, if there's no other way and you prefer to do that on a Word document or whatever, but it is more helpful if it's all in one place and all in the same format.
Of the form, it's just as a pre-look, you know, as in sort of the idea of the question.
Yeah,
that was
you can still do that. That's absolutely fine. I mean, you can come out of it and then just re-click on your link if you want. If you started to fill it in, like I say, you do then have to submit it, otherwise you would lose it all, but you can go back to it and add to it.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Okay.
I'm just thinking belt and braces though, Helen, if you can like print it off as a Word document and then just circulate it, even adding it just to this chat now, not now, but you know, as a follow-up, it might just again you'd be able to paste, perhaps even when you have like a break in the middle of it as you're working through the statements, and then you know what's kind of coming up. Is that okay? Can I leave that with you, Helen? Brilliant.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mark.
Thanks. My question was of a similar vein. Obviously, I haven't got a copy of the self-assessment form because I'm not representing a school. So I would actually really welcome a printed or an electronic copy of it, just to be able to look at it. And I think what Adele's asking for is to be able to see the questions in their entirety in advance, so you can construct your answers before you then go to the platform to submit it electronically. I think that's what she's asking, and I think that would be really helpful for everybody, so you can see all the different people you might need to speak to ask questions, to gather your evidence before you fill in your response.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah,
absolutely makes sense.
problem.
But definitely we'll make sure you get the link, Mark, and you get sent a copy of the statements as well. Because again, for you as a Director of Education, we really are looking at you thinking about how you're going to sustain this project going forward, how you're going to share the learning with other schools. And so actually, there's no reason why you couldn't replicate that in time to come for other schools that aren't part of the PINS programme. So brilliant. Okay, no more questions for now. I shall carry on with my slides. There we go. So the other thing that you'll be sent is also a school calendar, and it sounds simple, but it's really, really key in terms of recording all PINS activity for the reporting purposes. So it enables you to really have control over the spacing of the PINS activities to make sure that delivery over the 2 terms is manageable and is going to be well received, so that you've got the right people ready to be attending the training or linking up with the specialists who are going to be visiting your schools. And it gives us that consistent method of recording so that we can directly populate reports to NHS England and the Department for Education, and for sharing with the PINS project team. Just as a warning, it's set up as September, October, November, because we're assuming that you won't want much activity in December, January, February, March, but you can replicate it to create December if you so wish. What we'd say is that the key events for inclusion are anything to do with the PCF, so that you've got a record of their initial and final coffee mornings, which is their requirement, but any subsequent meetings between the PCF and your senior leadership team, just so that you can track all the communications that you've been having. The training events, to make sure that you've got a clear idea about the spacing of those events and attendance at those events, because we will need to report how many people are attending training and how many reach out via the recorded training as well. And then on-site visits as well, so that we've got those domain-specific professional visits to offer you. NHSE will specifically want to audit those visits. And like I say, it's just making sure that calendar is there so that you've got the baseline information from that for the reports. Okay. And in terms of that planning and booking support, as well as recording all activity on the calendar, it's really making sure you've got the oversight of communications with all the providers. Our learning from PINS 1 is that sometimes it could be that there was a breakdown in communication between providers and schools, especially if admin at emails were being used rather than direct contact details. So we will be wanting to share the key contact details. If it's not you, let us know who it is. If somebody leaves the post and is replaced, please let us know of any changes in contact details so that those providers can immediately get hold of you and get those dates in the diaries so that it works best for both of you. We'd advise you to pre-book as much as possible and to think about planning it across the 2 terms so that you're not left with lots of training to be delivered towards the back end of the spring term, because that will create its own pressure. And what we found was that it was easier to reschedule a planned date rather than to source availability. You know how your schools work at short notice. I'm already conscious that you've probably got all your insets fully allocated, and it will be about where you squeeze pins into that as well. But the more you can plan, even if it needs to be rescheduled, that's what we'd really recommend that you do. We've got 4 slides left. We're nearly there. So in terms of the survey, so this is particularly for parents and carers, and I can just say that says parent career survey. It's a carer survey. So there are 2 surveys. There's a parent carer survey, and this is NHSE led, and it's about focusing on capturing the lived experience of parents and carers at your school. It will be sent to schools first week in September for schools to circulate to all their parents, and we're saying a deadline of returns by the 19th of September. Now, if you've got parents who are, we're well aware of digital poverty, who would prefer a paper version, then we would recommend that you do collect, give them the opportunity for a paper version, but otherwise that it's electronic as much as we can. Returns go to Helen Noble for collation, and then the results are sent to the PCF, who will share the findings with parents and carers at your school's first coffee morning. So if parents and carers were looking for a first coffee morning day after the 19th of September, really, I would be leaving it till perhaps the last week in September so that you've got the results of the surveys and you can share those with parents and carers from the schools that you're supporting. And then that survey is repeated in March with the second PCF-led coffee morning to share the results towards the end of the project. And again, we're wanting to pick up on capturing that lived experience and if there's been any impacts of the PINS delivery on the parent carer experience at school. In addition to that, there is a school survey that comes towards the end of the project, and that will feed into the PINS 2025-26 national evaluation. And the focus is very much on evaluation and the learning that's been done as part of the PINS programme. Again, that will be sent to you by Helen with school returns, and it goes to the returns don't go to Helen, it goes to an external evaluator and the national team, but we'll make you aware of that at a later webinar. We'll be running a series of these webinars throughout the programme. So in terms of, I'll pause at this point, are there any hands up for those bits before I sum up with the last 2 slides?
No, there's a manual hand up.
Okay.
You, Kath? Yeah.
It is, yes. So my hand down, so it's permanently up.
I like the way you did that.
Just with regards to the feedback from parent carers on the survey, our experience last year with this was that it was really crucial to encourage the parents to feedback their own experiences, and that was done with face-to-face coffee sessions. I'm not sure we'll get the same results by just sending a survey out and then we get the answers in. So that concerns me a little bit.
That's a really good point. I mean, if you want to do that differently and you want to kind of meet earlier in the September but you're not going to, I think we need to capture a view from all of the parents, and I'm going to bring Leslie in at this point to get her view. But if you want to offer a coffee morning as well in terms of completion of the surveys with face-to-face, that sounds like a really good idea. If you think that's going to meet the needs of your populations in Knowsley, absolutely.
Okay, and just another question, when you say all parents, are we including the parents of non-neurodiverse children? Because I think that's going to skew your results a lot as well. And I know that might be coming from NHS England in itself, but I think it's going to skew your results quite a bit.
I'm going to come to Leslie for a view on that. I think my understanding is because there could be parents of children with ND who don't yet realise it yet.
Absolutely.
And it's about raising their awareness. But Leslie, just before I come to St Bede's Junior, Leslie, can I bring you in to talk to that point?
Kath's absolutely right. And there is the issue about skewing the data. And last year, I don't think that was anticipated. So NHS England said to send to all parents on the basis that parents may feel their child's got special need, but the school haven't spotted it yet, and vice versa. So our initial thought was just send to those whose needs have been identified as having additional needs, whether or not there's a diagnosis there. So it was a mixed bag last year, and that's the thing about surveys, isn't it? It's going to be varied. So I think if you want to make an executive decision on that, Julie, I think, let's go with that.
So, sorry, Leslie, to interrupt, is there a way of putting it out to say to parents diagnosed or even suspicions that your child may have some kind of additional needs, rather than just all parents? Because there will still be a big cohort of children there with no additional needs, and that's what I'm sort of concerned about, really.
Kath, would you work with us on wording an email of how it goes out from schools to parents and carers, so that we get the wording right, so that we encourage those who have got known special educational needs and those who think they might. And there'll be others who'll want to kind of, fill in a survey because it's a survey from school, but we'll get it at least skewed right. But I think we need your kind of internal perspective on how we word that right from schools to parents, carers.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That'd be really
although they're hand number 2, I'm guessing it's the same issue. So I think Sharon from Warrington wants to add to this conversation. Is that right, Sharon?
Yeah, hi Leslie and Julie. Just a really quick one, Kath. I think because we've already ran the project, and for a lot of us we're in year 2, for us that have already had the results out of the first year, I think we need to I raised this last year and thought it would be quite difficult to analyse some of the results, and it was quite a challenge. However, I'd like to see the project through based on the results of last year following this year. So if we ran it to all school approach last year, I think it needs to follow the same thread.
Yeah.
And I think what was important, Kath, was when we got the results, it was interesting to talk to the community around the school about those that were accessing whole school activities or was accessing the community that, like we say, maybe thought the child had some needs or not. And it was their experience versus other people whose children were accessing the whole school approach, for want of a better word, and didn't have a diagnosis. So you compare the two between the coffee mornings versus the analysis.
That's really helpful, Sharon. Really appreciate it. Again, if you might join a quick meeting with us so we get the wording right, so that we're getting the right kind of responses. Like you say, it needs to be all parents and carers, but we do need to target it to those who are going to benefit from this offer more. That would be great. Fab. And then if I come to St Bede's Junior.
Yeah, thanks very much. Steph and I were just chatting then. Is the survey done where the parent is anonymous, or do they list the name?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. Leslie, do you know? I would have assumed it was anonymous.
I don't know either, but I'm sure Kath and Sharon do.
It was anonymous last year.
That's great, because that's one of the things, even children with more complex neurodiversity, when we talk to parents about a lived experience, they're not always as open and honest about things, because obviously it can be challenging for them at an emotional level. So I think if it's anonymous, it's possibly easier for a parent to give a frank and honest reflection of their lived experience at home. So that's great. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we want that, don't we? We actually want to hear how they're feeling, how they're experiencing school for their child. And the last thing we want is that they think there could be, not that there would be, because you wouldn't be in this programme if you felt this way, but that there was anything punitive at the end of, like, you know, coming up with some feedback. This is all about establishing the baseline so that we can get the support offer to you to improve that experience for them. So I think the fact it's anonymous, that'd be good. Sharon, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, there is an area within the survey to allow to leave comments. So when we shared the feedback of the survey, we did it as broad themes, and we took away the comments and contacted any parents directly for a conversation away. Because what we're trying not to do through PINS in the last time is make it a targeted approach. It's about one person's experience. It really is a broadened theme that's coming through. So for any parents that were raising a specific issue, the PCF spent time contacting parents back in order to signpost and centre services that could give advocacy or the right support, and that was taken away from the school feedback because it's not targeted. It's very much a different approach.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's one of the key benefits of having the PCF involved. Not only does it offer parents and carers that additional advocacy, we are hoping they'll be able to build their membership by working with your parents and carers and offer them that additional support. Parents talking to parents very specifically of children with special educational needs who might be at different ages. So that's one of the really valued parts of this kind of programme. Nosy parents and carers, I'll come back to you.
Sorry, yeah. We found the comments of the parents were invaluable, and the survey itself, if it just gets filled in offline anonymously, there's a good chance you're going to miss some very, very valuable information.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Thank you. Okay, no more questions. I shall finish off with my last couple of slides. Hold on a minute. Have I stopped sharing my screen?
No,
it's still
fine. Yeah.
It was all going so well. There we go.
Sometimes a bit slow.
It is. So next steps really are for schools to complete and submit those self-assessments by the 30th. I'm heartened to see that you can submit it and then resubmit it, but Helen will send out paper copies so that you can have a look ahead and prepare your SEND governor or your head of governors who's going to complete that line 20 free text box. Parents and carer forums were asking to make contact with schools by the end of the summer term. If you get to the last week and you've not had contact, please contact us and we'll facilitate that to happen. And then from an ICB perspective, our role within the SEND Collaborative Unit is to analyse those self-assessments so that it can really inform the menu of support offered to schools. We are mindful that we also want to be influenced by the results of the parent carer surveys, obviously, in terms of that, but we can start the analysis in terms of where we're looking in terms of the domains from a school point of view, where they think they need that additional support via specialist visits or via training. There will be a September webinar. We're thinking third week of September. We're going to confirm the date for all Cheshire and Merseyside PIN schools, all 30 schools to come together, where we'll be inviting the NHSE National PINS lead to present the national context and where you fit within it. And there'll be a focus on the NHS Futures digital platform, which is where we've got a digital repository for you to access training videos and resources. And it collates the activity to inform that reporting as well. And we're just ending there then with our contact details. What I'd say is that you're welcome to contact us at any point along the programme. I'd really advise you to contact Helen Noble as our administrator in the first instance, and she will redirect your queries to either myself or to Leslie. But if you've got significant concerns, contact me directly. And our aim is to pick up any issues early on and to really work with you to resolve them, because we really want you to stay with the programme until the end, where all the benefits are really realised. So these slides will be shared with you, and there are contact details. And then we've just got time for any other questions, and I will stop sharing. There we go. So it's good we've answered questions as we've gone along. I think that's worked better. But at this point now, please don't tell me you've changed your mind and you don't want to be involved anymore, because I'm hoping this won't have put you off. There is work to be done, and this is the bit where the work is going to kind of be realised later on in terms of how well you fill in that self-assessment is, how much we can tailor the support that we then commission for you at school. Were there any other questions in the chat, Helen or Leslie, that I've missed? I think have we answered them?
Julie,
go ahead.
Nothing at the moment.
Okay,
but
fine.
I will go through it all afterwards and make sure we'll follow it all up with an email if necessary.
Okay, I'm conscious.
Kath?
Mark. Well, I'm conscious Mark started talking first, so we'll go to Mark first, and then we'll come to you, Kath.
That's because I forgot to put my hand up. Apologies. Sorry, Kath. Could I just ask? It was an announcement made at the start of the meeting. Could you just make sure you've put your name and school in the chat box, because I don't recognise everybody from Wirral yet, because I'm quite new in post, and I just want to make sure I haven't missed anybody. Thanks very much.
Yeah, good. If you did join the meeting last, if you will put your local authority and your school, there are 3 of these webinars running this week. You do only need to attend one. It'll be exactly the same information. And I'm hoping we've recorded this one, Helen, so that if you've accepted this one, you'll see it pop up in the chat later on that you've got the recording you can share. But if you've got other colleagues who, again, you know what happens, you go to a webinar like this and you're an hour later, you suddenly think of a question you should have asked. You can send somebody else along to the webinar, or you can contact us directly to ask that question. Kath, come to you.
Yeah, it's probably one that I could ask on the NMPCF, but I think now I've got some of the PCFs who's already done this work.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering that one of the things I have heard is some of the PCFs have done like a sensory box, and I don't know if any of our local ones have, because I'd be quite interested. I just feel like it might be a really nice thing to be able to bring to the project. So
okay, I'm going to come to Leslie, because I know we had something in I know there's quite strict, obviously as PCFs you get funding in terms of £1,000 per schools for your 2 coffee mornings, but there are some quite strict requirements around how you spend that funding. I'll come to you, Leslie, because I think we had this as an issue that came up in Liverpool.
We did have an issue with it last year, and NHS England resolved this by saying that parent carers are free to choose how they spend that money on schools. What we would advise is that the contents of that box be recommended by specialists. So the Sensory Hive do have a list, and we can send that to everybody.
That'd be great. That'd be great, thank you. And it'd be really good if there is some kind of piece of information about what we can and what we can't spend it on. If we can have that just to start with, just makes it easier.
There you go. There's a job for you, Leslie. Yeah, no, it's good. And it would be really good to have that in writing, especially that sharing from last year, because then we'll get consistent. If we're getting sensory boxes in primary schools, so that we've got consistent boxes. If children move from one area to another, from one school to another, they'll have kind of the same offer, won't they? Brilliant. Helen, your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I think we agreed that we would record the second webinar. I think this is, I mean, you might decide you want to change a couple of things after the questions. So this one hasn't been recorded. Is that okay?
Okay.
But we will be recording one on Thursday, and we will share that with everybody.
Okay, so long as you've got, because I think my understanding is that you can only share with those who've been on the meeting potentially. We'll find a way, Helen, of recording the one on Thursday and then sharing it with those who were on the call today.
Yeah, we should be able to share it with everybody. That should be fine, because we did that last year. So
brilliant.
Yeah, I think that'll be all right. Is that okay, Julie?
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Helen. Kath, back to you.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, I'm just a bit concerned if only one's being recorded, if there's questions being asked, for example, in this one, is that information going to be given? So for me, asking about the sensory boxes, because otherwise it needs to be the same messaging across all of the webinars. So
I will make a point for that in particular. The idea was we were going to potentially use you lot as guinea pigs, tweak the slides to incorporate any of the questions that you'd asked to be more complete for the next webinars on Thursday. So we'll make sure that what's been captured today does go into the slides, and you'll get a copy of those slides as well. So you've got most up-to-date ones. But yeah, you're right. I think if we'd have recorded them all, then you would be able to kind of have the full kind of questions and answers. I think we'll probably have some similar questions on Thursday anyway, but I think we've made a note between us of what's been asked today, and we'll go back through the slides now and make sure that we add that in, because I think they've all been really relevant. Any other questions? We're at 1:45. Well, Leslie, go on. I was just about to round up. Go on then.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if I could reiterate that when people are filling in the self-assessment, the menu of support, you know, if there are two of you doing it, someone with the menu of support at the side can give you fresh ideas about what sorts of things you should be considering. And looking at what's in that menu of support, it's not a menu of support, it's examples of good practice. That might change your mind. You might think you're a 4, but looking at that, there are things you particularly want that you hadn't thought of, and you might change your score. So I would recommend using the menu of support, the side by side.
Brilliant. Good point. Thanks, Leslie. Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you for your time today. Again, it's really great to have you on board for the second year of the PINS programme, and feel free to contact us at any time if there's any issues, but otherwise we will see you at a webinar in September, and have a lovely school holiday when it comes. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.
Yours previously going into your own, and then the central one as well. But